Sometimes life changes in the most unexpected way. A young nurse went on a blind date, not for herself, but just to replace her friend. She thought it was only a simple favor, but across that table sat a lonely millionaire single dad, searching silently for love and companionship. That one small act of kindness turned into the moment that changed all their lives forever. She had no intention of being there that evening. Her friend had begged her at the last moment, insisting she couldn't make the blind date and pleading for her to go in her place just so the man waiting wouldn't feel abandoned. The nurse, tired from her hospital shift, reluctantly agreed. She didn't dress up, didn't wear makeup, and didn't walk in expecting anything but an awkward dinner. To her, it was just a simple favor, one small act of kindness. But as she stepped into the quiet restaurant and saw the man waiting at the corner table, her heart skipped. He looked older than she expected, maybe in his late 30s, with an air of calm authority. His eyes, however, carried a loneliness she recognized instantly, the kind of loneliness that never comes from being alone in a room, but from being alone in life. He stood when she approached, greeting her with a gentle smile. "I wasn't sure if you'd come," he said. His voice was warm but weary, as if it carried more weight than it should. They sat down, and what was meant to be a polite dinner soon stretched into hours. She expected awkward small talk, but instead they shared pieces of themselves they didn't usually give to strangers. He asked about her work, and she told him about long nights at the hospital, the patients she cared for, the lives she saw change in an instant. He listened intently, as though her words mattered more than anything else in the world. When it was his turn to speak, his tone softened. He told her he was a businessman, a CEO running a company many people admired. But the success, the wealth, the polished image, it all meant little when he went home to an empty house. He admitted he was a single father, raising a young daughter on his own. His wife had walked away years ago, leaving him to play both roles. And while he had provided everything material a child could need, he confessed that his daughter still looked at him with eyes that searched for something more, something only love could give. The nurse felt her heart ache. She had seen this before, children in the hospital who longed not just for treatment, but for someone to sit by their bedside and hold their hand. She knew the difference it made when love was present. Looking at him now, she realized he wasn't just a man with wealth and power. He was a father carrying the weight of two hearts, his own and his daughter's. As he spoke, his voice broke slightly. "She deserves better," he whispered. "She deserves someone to look up to, someone to care for her the way her mother never did." The nurse hesitated for a moment, then reached across the table, gently placing her hand on his. Her touch was light, but her words were steady. "She doesn't need perfect," she said softly. "She only needs someone who truly cares." Those words silenced him, yet they lingered in the space between them like a promise. He looked at her as if he had been waiting to hear them for years. The dinner that had started as a favor turned into something neither of them expected. When they finally stood to leave, there was no doubt in his mind. He didn't want this to be the last time he saw her. Days turned into weeks, and they continued to meet. She met his daughter, a shy little girl who clung to her father at first, but slowly began to smile again in her presence. The nurse read bedtime stories, listened to her giggles, and stayed up late comforting her when nightmares came. And with every passing moment, the single dad saw his daughter's world changing. Laughter returned to his home, warmth filled the empty rooms, and hope, something he thought he had lost, began to grow again. The nurse had stepped into their lives by chance, yet it felt like destiny. She hadn't come looking for love, and he hadn't come expecting to find someone who would heal his heart, but in each other they discovered something rare, companionship that didn't care about titles, wealth, or appearances. She gave him honesty, kindness, and compassion. He gave her a family she never knew she needed. What started as an unexpected fate turned into a story that proved sometimes the greatest gifts in life arrive when we least plan for them. A blind date she never wanted became the moment she found the love of her life, and a lonely man found the partner he had been waiting for all along. She never believed that a single evening could rewrite the entire story of her life, yet that is exactly what happened. What began as an accidental meeting, an unexpected dinner she never planned to attend, became the turning point she didn't know she was waiting for. He had walked into that restaurant as a man burdened with silence and loneliness, a single father carrying more weight than anyone around him realized. She had walked in only to help a friend, certain that when the night ended, they would part ways and never cross paths again. But fate has a way of surprising us when we least expect it. He had the appearance of strength, the posture of someone who had faced the world and conquered it, but his eyes betrayed him. Behind them was a man who had been hurt deeply, left behind by someone he once trusted, forced to raise his daughter alone in a world where he was admired for his wealth, but unseen for his pain. She noticed it immediately, not the money, not the power, but the quiet sorrow in his tone when he spoke about home. His little girl was the center of his world, yet he knew he couldn't fill the void of a missing mother. He provided everything, yet he still felt it wasn't enough. She listened that night, not out of obligation, but because his words stirred something in her. As a nurse, she had spent her life listening to others, holding their pain, healing with compassion rather than promises. And now, across the table, she could feel that same instinct awaken, not just as a caretaker, but as a woman who understood what it meant to be lonely, to carry burdens quietly. She didn't pretend to have answers. She didn't offer solutions wrapped in grand gestures. Instead, she gave him something rarer, sincerity. Her simple words that evening, "She doesn't need perfect. She only needs someone who truly cares," broke through the walls he had built for years. From that night forward, their bond grew in ways neither of them had expected. She met his daughter and slowly, carefully became part of the little girl's world. At first, the child watched her with caution, uncertain of this stranger who appeared in her father's life, but the nurse had a way of reaching people. She brought patience where others brought hurry, gentleness where others demanded. She sat with the girl during homework, listened to her stories, and stayed through her small fears at night. It wasn't long before laughter returned to the child's voice, and warmth filled a home that had been missing it for far too long. For him, watching his daughter bloom again was nothing short of healing. The house that once echoed with silence now carried the sound of bedtime stories, shared dinners, and soft laughter drifting through the halls. Every day he saw how the nurse brought light into his daughter's life, and every day he felt something inside himself begin to mend. Her presence reminded him that love was not about grand declarations or perfect lives, but about showing up, about being there with honesty and care. And for her, something unexpected blossomed too. She had always been dedicated to her work, pouring her heart into caring for patients and often neglecting her own dreams. But in this little family she found herself embraced in. She discovered a home she never thought she'd have. She was not just a visitor in their lives, she was becoming a part of them. The man, once hidden behind loneliness, opened his heart to her slowly but completely. He treated her with respect, with gratitude, and with the kind of love that wasn't loud but steady. What began as an accidental meeting transformed into a life-changing bond. She healed his broken heart with her compassion, and in return, he gave her something she had never expected, a family to belong to. The little girl who had once been afraid to trust now called her Mom with a smile, and the man who had walked into that restaurant alone could no longer imagine life without her by his side. Sometimes love doesn't come when we go searching for it. Sometimes it finds us in the quiet moments, in the unexpected places, when all we did was say yes to helping someone else. Their story was proof that love doesn't have to be perfect to be powerful. It only needs two hearts willing to heal together, to carry each other's weight, and to build something lasting out of kindness and care. And in the end, that's exactly what they did. She gave him hope, he gave her home, and together they gave a little girl the gift of love she would never lose again. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe for more emotional kindness stories. Thank you for watching.